What if every assassination in the modern era had failed? What if bullets never cut short the ambitions of presidents, reformers, or revolutionaries? History wouldn't just be slightly different, it would be unrecognizable. Let's start in 1865. Abraham Lincoln survives. Instead of martyrdom, he becomes the architect of Reconstruction. With his steady leadership, the reintegration of Southern states is less vengeful, more healing. He pushes hard for civil rights, with a long-term vision for racial equality. Radical factions lose influence. The violent backlash that shaped America for a century might have been muted. The nation could have entered the 20th century more unified, socially, if not politically. In 1881, President James Garfield lives. His fight against government corruption gains real momentum. He forces through civil service reform years ahead of schedule. The US political system begins maturing earlier. Bureaucracy becomes more merit-based. The age of backroom starts fading decades sooner. By 1901, William McKinley isn't struck down. He remains a quiet, business-friendly leader. And that means no early presidency for Theodore Roosevelt. Without Roosevelt's sudden rise, the US may not embrace progressivism quite so fast. Trust-busting, conservation, and big government reform all get delayed. The modern American presidency, bold, media-savvy, interventionist, takes longer to emerge. Now 1914, Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, returns safely from Sarajevo. His survival changes everything. No spark for World War I. The great powers still feud, but not all at once. No mass mobilization. No trenches. No chemical warfare. No tens of millions dead. Europe's imperial system, instead of collapsing overnight, creaks along longer. The Russian Empire doesn't fall into chaos. Lenin doesn't take power. The Soviet Union may never rise. That ripple changes the 20th century. Without Soviet communism, there's no Cold War as we know it. Western Europe stays on edge, but there's no ideological standoff defining every move on the world stage. In 1963, John F. Kennedy survives the motorcade in Dallas. He finishes his term, and likely wins a second. Civil rights still burn hot, but JFK pushes forward carefully, trying to hold the political center. Vietnam? That's trickier. Kennedy had doubts, but it's unclear how far he would go. Perhaps fewer troops. Perhaps no massive escalation. But the draft protests, the anti-war generation, it might unfold differently. And in 1968, Robert F. Kennedy lives. He wins the Democratic nomination. Probably defeats Nixon. Under RFK, the country might see deep pushes for racial justice, economic fairness, and national healing. The 1970s could look dramatically different: no Watergate, no Nixon resignation, and maybe a softer landing for American politics. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. also survives. His leadership extends into the turbulent 70s. He speaks against poverty, against war, against division. Without his assassination, the civil rights movement has a stabilizing voice. More coordinated. Less fractured. His presence could have grounded the fight for justice through multiple administrations. In Europe, Olof Palme lives through 1986. Sweden's Prime Minister remains a strong voice for neutrality, diplomacy, and reform. A bridge between East and West during the Cold War, his survival ensures continued advocacy for peaceful negotiation over confrontation. Even in the United States, consider Ronald Reagan. Though he survived in reality, imagine that the attempt never occurred at all. Without that dramatic moment of resilience, he might not have enjoyed the wave of national sympathy that strengthened his presidency. His economic agenda could have met more resistance. The Reagan era might have been more contested. Assassinations didn't just remove leaders, they disrupted timelines. They triggered backlash, chaos, sometimes wars. Without them, history flows less violently. Power changes hands more predictably. Movements are guided by living voices, not built on martyrdom. But here's the twist: without those shocks to the system, some reforms may take longer. Some outrages never spark action. Some ideas don't become sacred causes. When tragedy is absent, so is urgency. Still, a world without assassination is a world with fewer traumas. More continuity. More debate and less bloodshed. No martyrdom. No myth-making. Just people, flawed, powerful, enduring. allowed to finish